courts raw scarred, judges grinning, deals in shadows locked, case workers speaking truth they've mocked. Gunning young for justice, rage intense, bringing kids home from this broken fence. Corruption weighs heavy, laws collapse, kids go missing behind their maps. CPS stealing kids, no trace, lies build walls, the truth they erase. Gunners howl, cuts through the air, he won't stop midnight, he'll get there. Dark hallways where the guilty play, secrets hiding, hope fades away. A man with fire, voice like a storm, breaking chains, reform, transform. Gunning on for justice, rage intense, bringing kids home from this broken fence. Corruption weighs heavy, laws collapse, kids go missing behind their maps. Family shattered, cries dulled by fights. CPS takes them in the dead of night. But Gunner speaks of brighter days, cut through the lies, light ablaze. Family shattered, cries dulled by fights. CPS takes them in the dead of night. But Gunner speaks of brighter days, cut through the lies, light ablaze.
Hey look, this for every mama got her baby snatched on some bogus shit. For every pops they locked out the crib like he ain't blood. CPS, y'all been eating off pain for too long. We know what you on, but now it's war, this gunning foe, CPS. Kick doors, no warrants, they taking our seeds. Say it's neglect, but they planting they greed. Feds in they pocket, judge got a fee. Run it like a business, adoption spree. Contracts overseas, got partners in France. But shorty from Shy, he ain't get a chance. Mama work 2 jobs, daddy do right, but they still snatch his baby in the middle of the night. Fuck CPS, they ain't saving shit. Just a system full of snakes getting rich off kids. We see through the cap, we done taken the hit. Now it's Suffer Davis popping and we loaded the clip. Gunna got the case, now we in that fight. Taking this to SCOTUS, shining that light. They ruined good homes, now we flipping that script. Time to bring them back, time to empty the clip. They labeled us monsters, called us unfit, but it's they paperwork dirty, all of it forged and flipped. How the fuck they selling babies to a bidder overseas? Then tell the fam you unworthy. Man, please, we got mamas in pain, daddies in tears. They breaking our hearts, been doing it for years. Now we riding with Gunner, and we got the proof. Sworn sworn under oath. Now it's time for truth. Trump got the team and the pen in his hand. He said bring them home. Now that's the plan. You feds been hiding, but it's over now. We moving like an army, and we ain't bowing down. Fuck CPS, they ain't saving shit. Just a system full of snakes getting rich off kids. We see through the cap, we done taken the hit. Now it's off of Davis popping, and we loaded the clip. Gunna got the case, now we in that fight. Taking this to SCOTUS, shining that light. They ruined good homes, now we flipping that script. Time to bring them back, time to empty the clip. They ain't gods, they ain't law, they just people. Corrupt people. And when the people rise, ain't no system safe. The Chi-Town, it's the movement. We gunning for CPS, and we coming heavy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait.
Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Gunning for CPS. I am your host, Gunner. It is Sunday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and welcome to the show. Guys, we have got a lot of great stuff tonight. A lot of things have happened. One, we are going to start with a major announcement, and you didn't remember this. You guys, this break, you guys need to pay attention to these executive orders that are coming through. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, you thought we were kidding about the reckoning. You thought we were kidding about everybody being held accountable. You thought our case was just another one of those cases that is going to go through. Well, guess what? You better wake up, because here it comes. The reckoning is here. It's not a joke. And this was just announced the other day. Guys, check this out.
Breaking news coming in within the past hour. Donald Trump has just signed one of the most extreme executive orders in U.S. history. A total border shutdown with no set reopening date. Starting the 1st of July, no one goes in. No one comes out. Not even legal residents with full documentation. The order, according to the Trump administration, is meant to protect national sovereignty, but immigrant communities are already in panic mode. If you leave the country after that date, you may not be allowed back in at all. Families are canceling trips. Students abroad are desperate. Lawyers are warning this may violate the Constitution. And inside sources from the White House say the shutdown could last beyond the election. Coincidence? Or a dangerous political move to control who stays and who leaves? Lawsuits are already being drafted. But will they stop what's coming? This is real. This is happening. And millions of lives may be affected.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you are seeing is this country has been at war. And we are at war with what was called the deep state, the corporation, the institution, whatever you may do, and it is being taken down, dismantled, including child trafficking organizations, international traffic organizations, drug trading organizations, and people are being held accountable. Why would you lock the country down other than to make sure that nobody escapes? So yes, the reckoning is real. These people will be held accountable, and this is what they're waiting for. If you don't think this is going to take and cover everything in this country, including what we're doing in this particular thing with CPS, where our voices from the bottom are shouting up. Now there's so many, there's others that are going on, but nobody has a case, but we have the case sitting there waiting for them to move forward on this and getting things prepared. Why? Because if this takes down with what we have with CPS, that a lot of them already have, you're talking about CPS completely gutted, everybody that participates. The fact that the evidence also includes judges and magistrates all across the country violating the Constitution and violating their oath to make money. You're looking at counties of every single state for fraud. and fraud against the United States government and the people. The institution is being torn down. They are peeling the onion. We have told you this for a long time. This is one of the reasons why they kicked me off of TikTok. They say, oh, well, it's misinformation. Well, congratulations. My misinformation has been coming step by step by step by step by step, just as easy as can be. So, what's it going to mean to live free and live under the Constitution? Well, one, you're going to have to know your constitutional rights. You're going to have them explain that public education systems, such as public schools, even advanced institutions, such high regards institutions such as Harvard, has been brought to its knees. This country is going to go through a reset, whether you like it or not, and how you feel about this is over. We are going back to the way it's supposed to be, in one constitution, to where all the lies you've been told about states have laws. States do not have laws. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand the Constitution. The only people that can make laws is Congress. And we have 3 branches of government, and no one can tell the other. That's what all this sifting has been about. Let's find all the dirty judges federally, because I know I have the administrative law judges across the country. Now I have to clean the courts, because where are your petitions and my petitions going to be heard that are not shut down? The federal courts. The federal courts, where your petitions, where they're going to open the floodgates and everything's going to be held accountable. Big Pharma made a huge announcement today that with the report that's coming out about the immunizations and everything RFK is doing, that they're expecting to bankrupt and destroy most of these big pharma companies. The big pharma companies that own your food. The big pharma companies that have controlled and poisoned your mind. In other words, and this is one of the things too, if they've been poisoning our minds and changing our bodies and messing with our brain chemistry and with our children, even from infantile, to where they have clipped the umbilical cord to steal what's in their stem cells for research and everything else, and never give you an option, and then pull your placenta and save that off and send that off to where the hospital makes money than giving it to that baby that it needs. We have trusted too far long in people that were caring for our health and caring for this and caring for that, because there's the issue with laziness. My point of this here and what you're about to see is that it is now time for accountability. It's time for you to grow the hell up. It's time for you to become aware. It's time for you to self-educate yourself, and nobody's going to wipe your butt anymore. So all those things where we trusted, those will never go away, even during the shutdown. Okay? They said the grocery stores will never, we never have to stock up on anything. You found out that was true. And I watched people, I know it wasn't as bad as it was during the Great Depression, but I watched people trust that so much, rely on that now starved and had to stand in a line like communist Russia used to do. Socialist Russia, can I please have? But I didn't fall for that. Walked right in, did my business, anything else. Did I have to stand up for my rights? Did I have to articulate those things and everything else? Yes. Because of that, it didn't stop me. And the little counters and all, you got to have a mask, you got to have this other stuff. Nope. Don't go for it. Don't buy it. Enforce it. I dare you. Because you'll lose your job and I'll own this store. And they knew it, because I knew their own policies. See, you got to be smarter. You got to have knowledge. Well, how am I supposed to know that? They have to disclose it to every Walmart employee with things like that, because it was shared with every Walmart employee. No, you cannot stop them. You can highly suggest and this and that, but you cannot. And they tried. And they watched what areas would not. And the people that wouldn't comply and obey, it was a test run of what they're going to scare you with next. And they're already coming out with another version. Oh, this new one mutates. It got this. Oh, so we're over here. Most of us. I was like, so strep throat's going to be bad this year. Okay. They don't teach you nothing about building your immune system with holistic medicines, with other medicines that they consider legal or illegal that would heal your mind, heal your PTSD, do so many different things that it has done in the past. And a lot of people say, well, what is that? That's a lot of plants. That's a lot of things. And Chris, I am seeing you in there. And if you're going to send it to the show email. If you're going to send me something and I do not see it yet. But guys, the issue that we're going to have to take and deal with, and this is one of the reasons you're going to see a lot of me and the CPS Punisher. And here's the reason why he's a continued guest on the show is because he is actively in and studying the law to work through that. Okay. Going to school, getting educated, going to law school, if you will. And so what we're going to have to understand moving forward with this, forget all these statutes, forget all these codes. Those belong to commercial. You're going to see that change in our lifetime if we make it long enough. We're going to go back to medicines and sharing those home remedies. That's the reason they isolated us, not to and steal our children, not to pass on those family traditions, those homemade from scratch recipes that had those good natural ingredients, and then pulling away from things of saying, hey, if this is so good for us just to buy everything in the store, and then they spray pesticides and everything else and all this stuff, and they watched us get sick and then sold you a pill that didn't heal, a pill that took and masked, made the symptoms go away. But it's never cured anything. There's not, and this, I say this confidently because RFK went through this and says, Big Pharma has not cured anything. It's only masked the symptoms. That's why Big Pharma is going so crazy now. This is the push back to holistic medicine to realize we have the plants. Do you realize the strongest antibiotic in the world exists in the Appalachian Mountains? Bet you didn't know that. The locals around here and or the Cherokee, because when I'm in East Tennessee, they call it yellow root. A lot of you may know it as golden seal. It's the top part of the plant. The root, which is extremely yellow, and it grows next to streams and everything else, this is the most potent antibiotic you could ever use. You can eat it raw, just gnaw on it, right out of the ground, wash it off a little bit, and this, that. It's called yellow root, Brad. They also call it golden seal. It's different parts of the plant. The Native Americans would use every part of the plant. See, that's why they suppressed all this stuff on reservations, man. It ain't got nothing to do with that. The amount of medicine that they use from the plants, their knowledge of holistic medicine, of what's here on this continent. And I may say Native American, they call it a colonizer word. They are their own people. They are their own tribe, and they are proud for being Cherokee, Navajo, Crow, Iroquois, Sioux. And I hope I said that right, guys. I don't mean to offend anybody. But this is what they hid in spending time, even myself, on a Cherokee reservation, a Navajo reservation, and understanding how far apart we are. And the best part of America was supposed to be the melting pot, is we took all the good parts of every different person, every different culture, and so on and so forth. And the idea was to blend them together, to have a strong, fibrous country. And you'll have to excuse me, I have a lot of stuff going. The concept is, and you'll have to excuse my camera as I moved, but the concept is that a cord or a rope made up of many strings is not easily broken. The same is found true in nature when it comes to a tree and its roots. And that's what we're talking about here, is that was the concept of our forefathers, was something that was strong. Now, even George Washington, even in the early parts of our country, you can go back and research this. This is absolutely 100% true. And you'll have to forgive my camera. There it goes. Over focus on things. When they come up with a two-party or a multiple party system, mainly the Democrats and the Republicans, George Washington, the very first president of the United States, notice I said United States. Big difference. That's a lot of history's changed. The United States said this, that we need to take, when we take and elect somebody, and I'm bringing it to modern terms where you can understand, that the candidates we choose shouldn't be based off of one political alliance or the other, but that the person that we're electing for the position that we're doing should be made from the measure of the man, or the character, the integrity, the respect of the man, not on their political alliances or who they align with or who they agree with the most. Because that's where we need the diversity, not one side or the other. It's not like that. Representing multifacets. That was the beauty of our country. It says, watch out, this is going to happen. Where are we at today if we don't heed the words of our very first president that has told us this was that? And a lot of people say, well, what's this got to do with CPS? Because that's how they got in. That's how they got control. Because they manipulated the system and they took the power from the people by oppressing them and suppressing them in ignorance. And they entertained you just like they did the Roman Empire with the Colosseum. If you don't know what I'm talking about, research the Colosseum in Rome. It was used to entertain the people, but kill off their enemies. While they did all the shady stuff that they did. We have got to do better. The Constitution, what are we going to have to do? Darren, go ahead and join me here anytime when you're ready, because we're getting ready to get this thing started. We're going to have to know our constitutional rights. If we don't know our constitutional rights, how do you know what to stand up for and what's right and what's wrong and where to speak up and where to stand corrected? And that's where they're bowling over you in these court systems and with law enforcement and with education and everything else that's here. There's no freedom. And I hate to say this, and I know Brad and I, we've had this, discussions in other shows and stuff. He's a school teacher. He's in a good area. He's got a good neighborhood and everybody feels safe and feels comfortable. But this is not true across the nation. We have got people that are implementing themselves with children that are pedophiles and have some very, very sick things. And if you know where I'm from Blount County right now. I'm broadcasting, here. I'm in Blount County, Tennessee. And if you don't know what's going on in Blount County, Tennessee, I know another group, Tanawa, they have supposedly a case that they were dealing with some things or something like that. But just recently, a teacher was convicted on touching so many, but they found out he affected almost 80 children over 20 years. There's Miss Barbara. How you doing, Barbara? Barbara, if you guys don't know Barbara, and I want to say this right, I believe it was Rebecca's House, is a survivor of the child trafficking ring called Rebecca's House. If I'm saying that right, Barbara, and you'll have to forgive me, sometimes they get a little fuzzy, but was trafficked all back and forth through a religious organization that was hiding behind that while they were stealing their babies. As a matter of fact, Barbara will even tell you, if you've listened to her, she's been on the Senate floor. She's been on in different states and everything else testifying. I don't exist in the system. I don't know what to do. And there's several of them that she knew from Rebecca's House that they don't exist. There's no social security card. There's nothing there. So yeah, we've got real victims, but you're talking about people that disappeared and then babies were born. Did you know Tennessee was involved with her too? Guess who delivered the babies? Uh-oh. Tennessee, you got a whole bunch of problems coming your way. But listen, man, groomers, the people that want to be around children. Listen, let me tell you something. I coached my daughters, or I didn't coach, I was a referee. And my daughter's AYSO. soccer league, you know, good little soccer league. That's fine. I volunteered because they needed. But one thing, I love my children, but at the same time, and I know Derek can say the same thing. Sometimes you just, as they say, fuck them kids. Fuck them kids. You just drove me up a wall. Stay the hell away. I don't want to deal with those. I don't want to deal with nobody else's kids. Leave me alone. I want my peace. Why? Because y'all are animals. You are feral little creatures, and sometimes, and that's what they are. But that's part of being kids. But us as parents, we got to have a mental break, man. You kids are just driving me up a damn wall because why? They're learning how to act like adults and how to fit into society and who they're going to be and form all these things that now CPS has really messed with us. But let's get into the show. Listen, guys, we're going to go back to basics. Is a lot of this show because I get a lot of people that are writing these affidavits and everything. As yes, guys, the letters have been out. So just to quickly cover that, if I have your affidavit and it is done correctly according to the federal parameters, not something somebody else has cooked up, it's real quick. It should be about 2 pages, if that. Unless your case is real bad, I've seen one that's three pages. But it just basically, this is my name, this is this, here's my truths, my small truths, all about constitutional rights, and then citing all the constitutional rights and how they were broken. In a brief description, your name, here's your notary, boom, and done. That's all we need. It's a victim's affidavit. It's not an affidavit of truth. It's not this and not. Quit sending those. We've made it easy for you with this chat bot to keep it simple and fill out a slim form, good for the courts. Just summarize it. I've got people sending me enough that, well, I can't figure out how to file in federal court. Well, you just drafted and sent me your whole complaint. Add your exhibits to it. You're pretty much done. I mean, guys, really? KISS method. We try to keep it simple, stupid. That is an old-time trades terminology that if you ain't never been in the trades, yeah, you'll know. You ask somebody that's in the trades if they know what the KISS method is and been in there a while. They'll tell you straight away exactly what it is. I can tell you what that is. Because every journeyman has told that to their apprentice. Every master has told that over and over to all of them. It even has to remind some of the journeymen, hey, keep it simple, stupid. Don't overthink it. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're going to go back to here tonight is we're going to go back to the Constitution. Really clear, guys. First Amendment, freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. Now let's get one thing very, 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 very clear. And I'm going to put this in terms that my wife Sharon in Beauty and Ashes, she's the psychological other side of that. But to get to all of you to understand, this is freedom with responsibility and accountability is what the Constitution, that's the summarization of the Constitution. If I don't hurt a person or a property, either one has to be restored because you've taken or you've stolen in one way or another, which is all this is going, then leave me the hell alone. I'm not operating commercially. I don't need all those other things. Those operate this. I don't have the same rules for me as I do at work. Because when I clock out, if you work and you clock out, that's your time, not company time. Okay. Now I know James. Now let me tell you something. I'm getting to know some of our people through here as we talk throughout the week with things. James works for a major corporation, the #1 aluminum producer in the United States, and got caught up with some stuff to where they were going to let him go because they have almost like an integrity policy. And when CPS came in, oh, that affected my job. But wait a minute, that's on personal time. We have to go through this. Now, let's go through this a little bit. And the idea, we're going to talk about these constitutional rights, both Darren and I, and we're going to chew this up a little bit of what it means in modern terms for you and give you some examples. Now, the First Amendment is freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. Let's see if I can maximize this a little bit more. And sometimes I don't. Let me see if I can. No. How about we just we'll read it from here. Congress shall make no law In other words, the power of Congress is the only one to make a law, not a state. A state cannot make a law. Let's make that 100% clear. So all these cops running around, law enforcement, judges, magistrates, and state courts and everything else, well, you're breaking state law. There is no state law. You're lying to me. You're actually committing perjury when you say that, because the state cannot make law. Only Congress can. It's right there in the Constitution, and the Constitution has a supremacy clause. It says that nobody can contradict this with anything you write. Oh, wait. Here we go. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting, in other words, saying no, the free exercise thereof, or abridging it. In other words, you can't mess with it.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom of speech, the freedom to talk. Now, understand, we said that word, freedom with responsibility. I can't say words like, I want to blank you. That's considered a threat. That's like a warning sign. Okay, that's a red flag, as we call it in the boundaries and circles world. Red flag. If I start hearing that, oh, red flag, you're almost going to do this, because you're verbally talking about it. In other words, there's proof and there's evidence that you're considering or you're doing this. Now, tone of speech and everything else obviously goes into that. But yes, the second and the next one, let's go to this one, or of the press. That's what we're doing right here. That's this right here is the press. Or the right of the people. In other words, these are God-given rights. Okay, these are the Bill of Rights. These are things that's what this is for. The first, what is it, 10 or 12? Darren, is the first 10 or 12?
7, I believe, right?
Is it more than that?
The ones that construct the first 7 keep our government in line, and I think there's 27 amendments or something like that, right?
Yeah, 27. Yeah, there are 27. So we're going through here of saying the Congress, in other words, the people that we elect, the elected and appointed officials, cannot do these things, nor can they have the right of people to peacefully assemble. That means not abridging. You're not affecting anybody else around you. You're not standing out in roadways. That's not peaceably assembling. That's shutting something down. It's a criminal act. Peacefully means you're over here and you're making a little noise. You're doing your signs. You're trying to make others aware. And you have the ability to petition the government for the readiness of grievances. Now, Darren, let's talk about that. What is readiness of grievances according to Black's Law Dictionary?
Well, I don't have the Black's Law Dictionary.
Or redress, the redress of grievances. In other words, what it's talking about there, and he's going to go through this, but this is why we have the judicial system, to make our grievances heard, right? So this is the redress. Sorry, it's a long day of grievances. In other words, if I've got a complaint that the government's not doing something right, I can go to the courts, file the petition, and make my petitions and my charges known with hard evidence. The First Amendment guarantees that. Okay.
It's your right to petition the government to correct a wrong or an injustice. That's what the whole thing was. And again, it's at your government.
Bring it back to the Constitution.
Right. It's not at your neighbor or anything like this. This is for you to be able to. Our government is screwed up. Right this situation. Like that. That's what they meant by that. I mean that's it. Like this document was drafted not for the government to be protected by the people, or protected from the people. It's from the people to be protected from the government, and we have to remember that. This isn't their document. This is our document. So anything that you see inside of these documents is how we keep this country in check, so that they don't override.
We wrote the contract. We, the people, wrote the contract. Basically, it's a common law contract, is what the Constitution is legally considered. It was written by we, the people, and anybody that is an elected appointed official must take an oath and or sign that contract that they will uphold those things. That's why it's called an oath. But they sign it too, that yes, I will defend and this and that. Same thing. But this means, in other words, they can't come in and say, you can't film here. I'm in public. We've dealt with this with police stations and public areas, people that are considered public. You cannot stop the press. I don't have to get a permit. I don't have to do this and that. This is my freedom to report on these stories and the government and go places where I need to go to get my story. You don't cross lines, obviously, is breaking and entering and so on and so forth. Speech. It allows you and I to come in without having, and there are some people that are in court cases right now, even Brenda's husband, for freedom of speech, freedom of press and expression. Why? There was no names mentioned in there. I've watched the evidence. Somebody felt threatened. Oh, you're coming after this. It's about all of them. And if you read the Constitution, exactly what his little cartoon portrayed is constitutionally sound.
And
you're gonna, I mean, you've seen the video, haven't you?
And let's get this very clear, Gunnar. It's the Constitution doesn't say that you have the right to have a free speech. You are obligated, if you find corruption in our government and you find a flaw in our system that's misrepresentation of the Constitution, you are obligated by that First Amendment to go out and announce this so that people are made aware of this. This isn't just like, oh, you can say whatever you want. This is why this thing's so important, because this allows you to speak out against corruption. They cannot shut you down because your government is doing something against you. This amendment itself allows you to go out freely, say what you need to say to the people, like Alex Jones, like us, like all of this stuff. They're not supposed to be able to shut us down.
Let me give you one example. You've heard of this one, Darren, right? Where they were taking and having police escort people, or even the state police coming to school board meetings for parents, talking about removing books from their kids that were in the libraries and exposing all that in their local government, that they were taken out and arrested for disturbing the peace. And that's a big stretch of a lot of things. But there's my freedom of speech, is that if I'm calling you out for your bullshit and you're not doing something legal or right, I have the right to express that. But to remove me from that meeting, you have now silenced me and committed a constitutional rights violation. Get CPS out of our schools. Get your kids out of schools. There's my big thing. Forget the schools, gone. I mean, that's one example. I mean, let's give some other real world examples with these things. Telling press, hey guys, you can't record here. I'm in a public place. I can record this. Even people in a lot of courthouses. Let me give you another one. What's the other one we've heard that we're dealing with in my case? You can't bring recording equipment or your phones in the courtroom. I have the right to record anybody in your public duties and matters. I mean, seriously. I mean, when it comes down to it, what are you going to do? Now you've committed a constitutional rights violation because, like I said, in my case, that evidence was told to be out in my truck, and it was enforced by the local sheriff's department with guns.
Yeah.
You can't bring that in here fully armed. Doesn't seem very fair, though, because you can't bring a firearm into those supposed buildings, can you? No, you can't. So what? That is not a free constitutional place. I'm allowed to what? In here or there. What are you fearing? Hey, don't have weapons in the courtroom. Great, but I'm in the common area. Well, you're in a government building. No, I'm not. I'm in a state building.
You're in the building that you own.
Yeah.
This is your house. Like this is the other thing that people forget. Like these are not the government's buildings. These are our establishments. These are ours. We the people. The most important thing you remember is we the people.
People, but once again, you're not educated. You have enough of your community to come together. Once again, we talked about, I think it was the McMinn County, Tennessee, right after World War II, where they overthrew the local government because of corruption by force. It's in the history books because they couldn't even get, local justice or anybody to do anything. And they were done, and they outnumbered these people that had power. And if you've ever seen what I think Sharon and I were talking about this is like the movie The ants, if the grasshoppers, are over us, if the ants wake up, we're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happening. And like we said, first thing in the show, the executive order, the borders are locked down July 1st. Nobody comes, nobody goes, except for if you're here on a visa or anything like that, you're welcome to leave, but you can't come back. Why? Because we're getting ready to clean our house. It's not a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, the Battle of Athens. Thanks, Richard. I knew it was down there towards Chattahoochee. But listen, you guys don't realize what's going on. The Army came in, did a full birthday celebration, everything else. They handed a flag over to him. What was that flag? District of Columbia, the corporation. It's dead, Mr. President. Here you go. Here's our war prize. Their flag.
They
You
say
ever play
that
the flag?
they say on Google Earth, if you look now, it doesn't say Washington D.C. anymore.
Nope, it says Washington.
Something Washington of America or something like that.
And I don't know what they've gone through, but this is the same time that he made the announcement of the renaming of the Gulf, honoring the treaty and everything else, taking it away from corporate things. No, we own the rights to it. We can rename it.
Yep.
But did you also notice, guess who's in downtown New York City?
Oh.
You guys watching? Who's there?
Yes.
They've shut down the streets. United States Marine Corps, boots on the ground in New York City. Marching in the streets, doing PT up and down the road. Their presence is there for a reason.
Well, I mean, there's this thing here. People need to realize that this sovereignty thing is going to come for a little discomfort and a little fear for a little while. People need to realize, I don't know how much you want to get into this, how much you believe, but, the fiat system's getting ready to go down. We're switching banks. We're going back to the gold standard, the constitutional way that we're supposed to run our country, the way that we're supposed to do it.
Absolutely.
So that's coming.
And here's the thing. You guys ain't going to know what it looks like because you've been so in the system and go, I never knew. And guess what? I'm glad you never knew. But when you wake up and realize how bad it is, let alone the recent discovery that just happened this past week of what our trade agreement was with Canada. Uh-oh.
I missed that. What did we find out?
Oh, we were getting 400% on dairy products tax. That means for them doing nothing, their government was taxing them 400% just to bring our dairy and some of our other stuff across the border. Doesn't seem fair, does it? I mean, when these tariffs are realized, we went to a tariff standard. That was the original standard, was off the tariffs, off the businesses, not off of the people. So we're going to have to go back to school, and we're going to have to teach you, obviously, on this show, what your teachers failed to educate you about the Constitution and what it means. This freedom of things that any government agency, anybody that's this or that, or any person that oppresses this has violated your rights. So when you have somebody, oh, well, don't do this. Well, don't. No, that's why they won huge lawsuits back, and you guys didn't pay attention. If you did a little history on artists, music artists and everything else with profanity and the labels and all that. Eminem, huge lawsuit. Other places, I think 2 Live Crew way back in there had a huge lawsuit. No, this is freedom of speech, religion, this, so long as it doesn't hurt anybody, does physical damage. Freedom of religion, I can practice what I want, but it ain't going to be child sacrifice. It ain't going to be beating on somebody.
Well, no, that's still harming somebody. You can't do that. You cannot do that.
No, 100% you can't. So this is why Islam will never work in this country. But of course, their goal is to overthrow and replace the Constitution with Sharia law. You don't believe me? They're already calling for it. They're calling for a jihad in America already.
Right, but see, this is the thing too, is that's not the real Muslim way. And people need to realize that what these extremists are preaching is not the way that the Muslims truly are. They believe in peace. They don't want this war. They don't want this fighting. And the true Muslims are getting such a bad name for themselves and being headhunted and getting so much anger. And this is what they want. They want us to hate these people. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to divide us again. Let's do it in the religion sect. Let's do it this way. That's not, if you took the Quran and you went back and looked at the original ones, it doesn't say, death to the infidels and all of this stuff that these guys are preaching. This is bullshit that they're putting into these people's heads.
It's a secondary. It's like a secondary book, if you would. You compare it to. Let me do a comparison so some people understand. It's the difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament. Only it's where in biblical or Christianity terms, Old Testament was very violent, and that. The new one's peace and loving, and some of these other things.
Right.
It's reversed. Before with Islam, you're talking about with some of them peace, living with things, and this and that, and that's one side. And then there's a whole dark edition that gets really bad, and then you're talking this that. But once again, that's where influence comes in and free thinking. That's what they were freaking out, was because they were starting to let the internet and the dark web always crept in, especially in Iran, a lot of these things, and they're realizing some of the things about the people and the things that they believe. And they're changing religions dramatically by the hundreds of thousands over there, especially we want them to bomb or take out Iran's, leadership. A lot of people in Iran, we're being oppressed. You guys don't understand what this means. We're being beaten. We're doing this. You don't believe me? Go back and look at some pictures from Iran back in the 60s and 50s.
Yeah.
What? Let me tell you something. They were known as a lot of Persian women that come from the Persian area. But let's get back into this First Amendment to assemble. Press is what we're doing now. We're speaking. In other words, there's no recourse. Now, the idea is you can't prosecute me for reporting the news as to the best of our ability. Once again, we go back, we go to research it. If we say it's a little bit of, hey, we're developing this story, we're going to follow up on this. But we don't do a lot of that stuff here. Here's a confirmed source. It's all over the place. Petition. Petition means they can't stop you, as you're hearing a lot in these state courts. You can't go to the federal court. You can't change my jurisdiction. You can't take and remove this stuff from me. No, I have a right to petition anytime I want, according to the rules. If you're breaking the law, in other words, constitutional rights have been violated, you've lost jurisdiction in the case already. Other than the fact that you're going to take and do the right thing under your oath and say, no, wait, illegal entry, fruit from a poisonous tree, case dismissed, give those kids back. If they would have done the right thing, and don't give me no bullshit, you didn't know no better, because the evidence was right in front of your face, and I've got hard evidence to prove it in every state. So no, and all you judges, and all the evidence is already on the record. It's stored. Your day is coming with all this. This is not a joke. You will be held accountable. Is this a threat? No. This is a constitutional promise that when this is brought forth, the evidence to you, you will be held accountable. And by that time, once all these people and all their voices rise and everything else, and all the purification going back to the Constitution is done, and the refined, then we're going to be refined, because we're going to get all of you out of there anyway. He already knows about you, judges and magistrates. The administrative law judges he put in his letter. But the ability to petition means I can bring out, I can gather names, I can educate, I can go to assembly is sharing of information, making this go, hey, do your own research, but this is what we found, or this is voicing our beliefs. We have a right to assemble, to gather together and share ideas. We also have the right to get together. I think you guys have lost a lot of this too, and debate. But that means sharing information. And that's a lost art, though, isn't it, Darren?
Sure, I mean, sure. People get too hurt, or they take it personal, or they, there's nothing better than sitting down and going head to toe or head to head with someone based on your beliefs and your facts and their beliefs, and two people just arguing it out to come out with a victory stance and win. Not an opinion. We're talking about facts here. And when you lay down the facts, you can't ever argue. You can't argue facts. Facts are it. And, and this is, people have lost this. You know, they've gone so much into the I have the right to say whatever I want. This is my opinion. Well, your opinion doesn't mean shit if you don't have facts to back it up. You know, and that's the bottom line. Because otherwise, you're just arguing about senseless information. If you have facts, you can go there. You can say, boom, 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 boom. Prove me wrong.
Yeah. Not we feel like CPS comes in. Well, we feel because of these particular characteristics, this is going to happen, Your Honor. And that's what they're basing all this on as feelings. And here's the problem with that. There's no facts to go with it. And you're not, and once again, it's not what this ain't the Minority Report to where you shoulda, coulda, woulda, or a computer thinks you will. You know why? Because you can have three people raised in the same neighborhood, in the same area, the same parent, and all three of those kids will turn out different. Every single time. None of them are the same. Why? Because we are uniquely, or as some lot of people say, we are wonderfully and beautifully made to be different, which is why these constitutional rights also, guys, let's point this out, is about individual liberties,
correct,
not about the democracy or the government. It's about my rights. It's about Darren's rights. It's about your rights.
Sure is.
And when you think your rights override mine, that's where you're wrong. That's where the lines are drawn in the sand or in the concrete and say, do not cross, you won't. But they've been doing it to make money. Now, facts are different than feelings. They're hard. This is why they don't want you to record. This is why they don't want you to have this and this and that. Why? Because it gives them the ability to lie and manipulate. So let's go on. Okay? We're going to go down to this Second Amendment, one of my favorites. Once again, the thing that sets our country apart from all other countries, the right to bear arms. The right.
And folks, remember, we're in the Bill of Rights here. We're not reading the articles of the Constitution. We're in the Bill of Rights here. With these,
we're in the Bill of Rights. God-given, these are considered God-given rights. Okay? Now, and we'll cover so much, and then next week we'll pick up where we left off. I know that we're on time frame or this, that. Let's go to this. The rights to bear arms. Let's see if this, let's switch this one.
There we go.
There we go. A well-regulated militia of the people. Now, we've had this conversation. I know you've done the research. Darren, who's supposed to be the head of the militia?
The sheriff. Sheriff's supposed to be
sheriff. You're a duly elected sheriff, constitutional sheriff. He's supposed to know the Constitution inside out and protect you against the government with the ability to arrest and everything else, as well as be a peaceful sheriff to what? Keep the peace, to be the negotiator. Guys, it don't need to be like this.
They are the last line of defense between us and the government overrunning us. People need to realize the power of that sheriff.
And we got to understand, too, we've already told you, they've already done a stand-down order to where sheriffs have stood down from CPS saying, don't get involved with CPS. We have a right to this and this and that. That is a violation of your sheriff's oath. They have gotten past the sheriff, people. We have the proof for it. A well-regulated militia. Hold on. Here's the beauty. Listen to the beauty of the words of the Constitution. Being optional, being a choice. Wait, being necessary. A necessity like air, like food, like water. To the security of a free state. And of course, they're going to say, well, you could have them, but you got to have a license, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do this, and all these other things, and all, go through all these things. No, that's unconstitutional. This is the argument that has gone back and forth with states. And let me tell you something, states, when we go back to the Constitution to understand this, I don't need a license. I don't need a carry and conceal permit. I don't need anything. I have a right to carry. I have a right to bear arms on me at all times. That makes it a free state. The right of the people to keep them, to store them in your home, have a cachet, whatever it may be, large, small, whatever it may be, and to bear the arms, carry them in traverse
Yep.
or with you,
And that doesn't
shall
mean
not.
guns. That doesn't mean guns. That means any sort of weaponry. It's
You
not
want
just
to
guns.
just strap a cannon in a bed of your pickup and say,
Damn right.
F around
You
and
used to
find
do that
out and
stuff,
let's
too.
volley?
You remember.
Yeah. Do you know how much damage a cannonball does? It keeps going. It's spherical. It'll
Mm-hmm.
bounce and go and go and go and go, and it'll just
Well,
mow down
pass the
anything
other
in its path.
bracelets.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the same concept of a modern cannon is a tank. It's a cannon on wheels.
Yep.
Once again, all these things, and you take it to around. Well, nobody needs an AR-15. It's an assault. This AR stands for armor. What? Armor light weaponry. AR, not assault rifle.
AR isn't AR just the maker of the gun?
It was
Isn't
the
that
original maker of the gun. It was AR Model 15, is what it was. It has nothing to do with M, which stands for military 16. Hence, the word in every weapon that comes in military starts with an M. M203, M249, M247, M9, everything. Military grade. We have two different sets of weapons, civilian and military grade. And once again, it's through there. Now they're going away. They're talking about repealing the Hearing Act, and that ATF doesn't have a right to take and let's talk about this. ATF doesn't have the right to make laws. That's already been interpreted. What does that mean? That whole thing with the bump stocks and the reset triggers and all that other stuff is gone.
Is that what you said? Armalite? Armalite
Yeah.
with AR? Yeah.
Yeah, Armor, I forgot what it was.
Armalite is the company that designed that was the originally designed it. Yeah, Armalite is what the AR stands for.
It was the name thing, and it was Model 15. That's just like Smith & Wesson has different models. In other words, this is our model. In other words, they count every model they test, every little change they do, but what they produce is that particular model, and that is on record to keep track of that for filing the patents for those things nationally and internationally. So the models have to do with, well, we added a different grid. Oh, well, we changed the frame. Oh, well, we did a caliber change and all this other stuff. All those are different models, and you'll notice that. Hence, you're going to look at once again, give me a good comment, and please understand, I am not a fan of Glock, not my favorite weapon, but once again, Glock 17, Glock 18, Glock 19, Glock 20, they're all different calibers. They're all a Glock. They're just a different model and or patent number. Okay. So please understand that's the way that system has worked. So talking about right to bear arms, then it comes down to definition of arms. Now, Derek, what does Black's Law Dictionary say that the term arms means?
Well, let's check it out. Let's see. I do not know what Black's Law, but let's find it out right now.
So because these are the things the courts will use. What does arms mean? These are the legal definition. They're found in Black's Law Dictionary. How is fine? Now, some will say, well, arms meant a musket ball, and black powder weapon, and all these other things, and all this other things. No, it does not.
Anything used for offense or defense, including weapons like firearms. It's also distinguished between carrying arms and bearing arms, with the latter referring to carrying weapons for military use. According to a law blog for the University of Illinois, the term arms in legal context, particularly concerning the Second Amendment, encompasses a wide range of weapons, not just firearms, and is often interpreted as anything carried for offensive or defensive purposes.
Okay, so let's give you an example. Arms.
I could throw a rocket. That could be an arm.
A hatchet. Yeah, all that. A pen. Do you know a pen's a weapon? Pencil? All these different things.
Mess them up.
Whatever I can use, when I use that towards somebody, I'm doing the assaulting. And Kelly, make sure if you have that baseball bat, just make sure you have that glove when you go to baseball practice. Just Just telling you. Help you out a whole lot there that, if you happen to carry that baseball bat around with you, make sure you carry your glove.
That's enough
Always a
yourself.
good match pair. So, hello, John Frank, Pause, welcome, Kelly O, Rochelle, all you guys, James, a lot of you guys new out here, wife like Emma Smith, Barbara Ann's back in here with us, of course, all the others. So a lot of this has to do with, and this is your understanding that you should have learned in high school. I can use a tire iron. I could use a wrench. I could use a popsicle stick and assault you if you're trained right. I mean, people think, really? Oh, you'd be surprised. I mean, if you don't believe me that weapons cannot be made.
Whew, Lordy Lord.
I'm just saying, weapons can be made. If you don't believe me, look up the term shank that prisoners make. They'll fabricate a weapon out of just about anything.
Yeah. Yes, sir. You got time. You can do anything you want.
All this stuff, guys. But the Constitution is so important on how you understand it, what it means in modern terms, and how these people do double talk. If you guys watched the show last week, which we covered a little bit of the letter, but we also showed some videos of some really bad Fourth Amendment violations of cops trying to coerce and intimidate, or if you don't do this, or you don't do this, or you guys can watch constantly on the things of just bad things. Arresting me, produce your license. No, well, what's your problem? What's the problem, officer? Give me your license and registration. I'll tell you. No, it's your responsibility to tell me what the problem is first off. That is called, you ask them, you can give them and speak their terms. See, here's the thing. When you talk to them in their language, what's your reasonable articulated suspicion? Your RAS. What's your RAS? Okay. Oh, didn't know, suspicion. Well, they'll do the suspicion. You push a little bit further. What's your reasonable articulated fact, your RAF? If they can't tell you that he has a suspicion, there's one. Okay, there's enough to, okay, I have a suspicion. What's the fact that backed up that suspicion? If not, this is an illegal encounter, an unconstitutional encounter. You have to assume I'm doing something wrong, and you have to state a fact, not that you're just in the area, that he's witnessing something that is making him or her suspicious. You can't. I'm sorry, officer. I'm not failing to identify. What is your reasonable suspicion? What is your reasonable articulated fact? Give it to me. You have to communicate this. I'm recording this because this is going into court. Because if we proceed any further, you are going to violate my constitutional rights. Them reaching in your car, hey, roll down your window. No, enough back and forth to do whatever if it's needed. I don't have to. Well, I can't help it if you can hear me. You need to figure something out because this vehicle is protected by the Fourth Amendment. Oh, you didn't know that?
Right.
In some of these states and other things, they'll turn around. The one that they love to use, especially here in Tennessee, and there was a ruling on this, and I'm going to go through some of this stuff here, and we're going to get to this. Well, let's go on because we'll cover that in the fourth because there's a lot to cover in the fourth.
Yeah.
A lot to cover in the fourth because that goes a lot of things. The next one, quartering of soldiers. No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner. In other words, wartime. Nor in wartime. It's saying, oh, wait, what? But in a manner prescribed by law. In other words, they can't come in and take over your private domicile. Let's go to this here. Your private domicile, which you own as a peaceful citizen. Now, can they take over the retail stores and all the other things that are open to the public and businesses? Yes. Can they take over your house? No, not without permission under any circumstance. Well, we've got somebody over there and we're going to remove you from your house. I choose to stay. I say no. No, you cannot use my house to set up and become a sniper's nest. to shoot across here and there, that's your problem. You want to do it, go on my roof, I'll give you that, but you're not coming into my home. You must have the proper things for a Fourth Amendment in any case, unless there's imminent danger. But it has to be imminent danger. Wait, in my house. Did y'all catch that? There has to be imminent danger in my home for you to enter, not what's going on across the road. Police departments, you see this on TV all the time. They'll go into what? Somebody's house because they've got a shooter, active shooter or something. They're setting up sniper teams that'll take over somebody's house and big operations and all this other stuff and try and run all this stuff out of there. You can't do that. Not without consent or permission. You can't do that. Police is a private entity. A duly elected sheriff, same thing. This is an active thing. This is talking about that particular thing. We're not at war. You're an officer of the peace. Oh, big difference. You didn't know that there was a difference between wartime police versus an officer of the peace, a justice of the peace. Mm-hmm. And that's the way they've been doing it, is acting as war, because they're at war. You know why? Because they're at war with the Constitution. Mm-hmm. Oh, you didn't catch that, did you? That's what's been going on. Okay. Let's go to the next one, and we'll probably, after this one, guys, we're going to wrap this up because this one is going to take a while. The Fourth Amendment. Let's dig in here. The right of the people to be secure in their persons. In other words, I must feel safe. In other words, I can be safe in my person. In other words, where I feel safe and I don't feel safe. My houses, my papers, and all my effects. In other words, everything within the structure of my home or where I am, then that structure includes, the case law has said, is your home, your car, your RV, your truck, when you're not operating commercially. I'm not commercial, I'm private. A hospital. That's right, them coming into the hospital rooms and we're here to take your baby and this and that. Fourth Amendment violation. You've come in here with no warrant or court order. Yeah. Hospital.
Yeah.
But they're not going to tell you that because they're getting away with it till you push it, and until you push it to the Supreme Court sometimes, which is why we're going where we're going, because enough's enough, because this is what they're doing, and they're doing it in every state. They don't have a right to be in there. You're going there to be treated. It's protected by HIPAA. You're coming in doing all these things. Well, we've done these tests. We've done this. Once again, let's cover this even further. And the effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. That's your person is your body. You can't search or seize me against a reasonable search and seizure. In other words, I'm not under arrest or anything. A lot of things change with that stuff. And it says, shall not be violated, and no warrants. Oh, wait a minute. This one covers no warrant shall be issued, but upon probable cause. In other words, first-hand knowledge, supported by an oath or affirmation. Proof. Your caseworker has never been in your house to say, Your Honor, we've got a call about this, and that. Well, we need to get into the house, and I need you to write me a court order. No, it's null and void. Well, even if he puts his stamp on it, it's not legal. 100% it's not legal. Just because they sign it doesn't make it legal. Oh, there's a new concept for you. You mean just because the judge and all the courts and everything says this and that it's legal? Well, they say it's legal. You listen to the wrong side. Of course they're going to tell you it's legal when they're breaking the law. Mm-hmm. Probable cause with a support birth, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. I'm going in with a purpose, okay, with a specific thing. I need to get into so-and-so's house, and I'm looking for this in their home, a gun. Particularly, not just a gun in general, We are looking for the description of a 38 caliber revolver that is black. Per these descriptions and or these firsthand things this person said they had. Do they have that? Does CPS have this? Well, we got a call that they were beating their children in this. Do you have firsthand experience? Is that person willing to come forward? No, well, it's on an anonymous line, and Your Honor, we need to protect those people. Constitution says, well, I hate that for you. Can't let you in.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, you're going to have to figure something else out because you start crossing that line or doing anything. Well, we got reports from this or that, or we had a doctor that turned around and said this, that. Well, good. Did that doctor sign that under medical neglect? Because a doctor has to say there's medical neglect and has to give reason and have absolute knowledge of the job, eliminating all other possibilities. In other words, one possibility that's going to be huge is look at the stuff that's in our food. You took me for medical neglect, or my kid was having problems because they were having a reaction to the food that the Food and Drug Administration said was healthy and acceptable, or the formula I was giving my baby. The courts cannot violate due process. The biggest thing is before you ever get arrested, unless you witness the crime, you're still supposed to, even if you witness the crime, you're supposed to take them right before a magistrate. Did you know where they arrest you and then they put you before the judge or the magistrate and everything else? Did they witness the crime? Nope, it was secondhand. Your Honor, we got a report. We came in. This is what we saw. This is here. You're supposed to have a grand jury before there's even a warrant put out.
Yep. And you're supposed to be able to be present at that grand jury.
Yep.
Did you know that?
Yep. Supposed to be present at the grand jury hearing. A right to defend yourself, to right there, to nullify it out. That never happened. I was never here. I was over here to stop the process and reduce the cost.
Yep.
Here's the other problem. You see something on where it's you against the state, right? The state of so-and-so versus me, right? Well, I'm going into a state courtroom or the local county courtroom with me versus the state. Well, now we've got a major problem. Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2 specifically states, any case where the state is a party, defendant, plaintiff, it don't matter. Original jurisdiction lies with the Supreme Court of the United States of America. That's right, the federal courts. Then why am I in state court? Exactly the point. There's another point. And we've been preaching that for 3 years, 3 years. No, how can I even be in court for this? This is crazy. It's me versus the state. It was me versus the state with that ticket. It was me versus the state versus this and that. You can't hear the case. We'll bring a judge from another county so there's no that. It originates in federal court. But they're making money. You know how they're making the money? Well, we turned around and told you about that last week. The bonds. The longer they keep you in court with the surety and performance bonds and the insurance, they do it. They take out a loan. They make a bond like a bank, and they trade on it. It's why they get so rich. They're getting all this money, and you think it's they're getting just Social Security? No, they're taking out bonds, and some of them are international companies. Holy shit! Yes. Imagine another country like China issuing these bonds knowing they'll pay out to keep you in court and mess with you illegally and unconstitutionally. And they're making money off of it. That's where the money's coming from the bonds. So when we say it's going down, oh yeah, when you show that in court that you have a foreign entity putting these bonds out, that's an act of treason and sedition, folks. That's allowing an enemy to profit off of restraining and inflicting oppression and violation of constitutional rights internationally. We got a problem. Search and seizure. Now, what are some of these other seizures? Seizure of your body. In other words, taking a drug test, taking a breathalyzer, doing all these. Well, if you don't agree to this, you're going to this. I'm not operating commercially. Well, you're driving without a license. Where was I operating commercially? The whole thing with the plate system for normal people, we'll say the average citizen, was actually found, go back and do your research, was to help track vehicles from getting stolen because there was an issue with theft. Then, well, we replaced that. What did the car manufacturers? Well, do away from the plates and let's put a VIN number on it and on the motor. But yet they kept on with that because they were making money. Unreasonable search and seizure, probable cause, having a reason, not just a feeling, hey, my spidey sense is tingling. Your Honor, my spidey sense is tingling. I think something's going to happen. Could I get in their home? Have you ever looked at the manuals? I know Darren and I have, but the manuals, policies, procedures, and everything else for CPS is the one thing they want to do is constantly in the home. Let me get in your house and tell you what's right or wrong. Hey, are you kinship? You know why they give them foster care instead of kinship care? Because the kinship care can tell you to piss off. You're not doing a home inspection and it's not required. That's a violation of my Fourth Amendment right. But you'll give me my kinship child, the kid that's part of my family. I don't have anything to prove to you unless you've got a case on me. You can't come into my home. You don't have probable cause to do anything. Well, we need to make sure the kid's safe. That's a you problem. And unless there's been a crime, you can piss off. See how the overreach works? But of course, if you sign up for the foster care program and you do all the other fabulous stuff and you get signed up for all this stuff, they can make money. Why? Because then they can come into your house as much as they want because you've contracted with them to do so.
You become a product of the state when you contract with that foster care.
Yep.
You work for the state now.
You work for the state. And part of the stuff with there, all your employees with this, you are on the clock 24 hours a day with that. That means at any given time, they can come in with no warrant or court order because you have a foster kid in there. They don't have to. Surprise inspection, this and this and that. Other companies, there were, the other issue that we're talking about, search and seizure, drug tests. CPS cannot drug test you without a warrant or court order. And they have to have probable cause and go before a judge. And on top of it, all the companies that got sued over the dirty drug tests that CPS and police departments and some of the others were getting, like probation CPS, using the same companies, you know that they paid out a private settlement on that with a non-disclosure agreement? Because if that got out, every test, anybody that ever had that test because they were compromised would have to go back and everything be overturned, and it opened them up to huge, massive lawsuits. Imagine going to jail for pissing dirty, knowing you didn't, and they took your kid and everything else, and now come to find out that company has got bad tests. You'd have to reverse it, and they can sue the shit out of you. That's why the system is protecting the system, the corporation, not holding them accountable, playing within the courts. If it's dirty, it should be exposed. And there's one thing that needs to stop. That is one of the things that RFK is doing right now, is blowing the whistle on all of it, to where a big pharma announced this past week that if he publishes the report about the immunizations and the damages they called and everything else, it will open us up to so much litigation that it will bankrupt them. These are people like Pfizer, Bayer, all these other companies going under because, and what were they doing that he also said? These same drug companies were what? Experimenting on children that were in what? Foster care. But they're property of the state, right? Because that's the way they look at it. Did you ever go read your state's constitution? You should.
But don't you think that's funny that they can be property of the state but not property of us as parents?
Yeah. But they're trying to trick you.
We try to claim them as property. They say, whoa, 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 you can't do that. But the state can have them property of the state.
Exactly. So you've got, and once again, this is trickery because they've been pushed on certain cases you don't hear a lot about. Well, Your Honor, they are property of the state. They did it by marriage license, and because of that, they're a corporation, and a benefit or a spring off of that or an asset to that corporation or union is the children. And we have a right to that. We have a right to regulate that. That's exactly where they have been getting away with it and how they argued that. But the Constitution does not change. We have an inherent right, even under the First Amendment, that all those things there to our family. That is protected. That's case law that says that, not me. That's federal case law. You can go look it up. You have an inherent right to your family. But everybody's so worried about a damn dollar and everything else because you're starving to survive. Well, guess what just happened? All of it exposed with the tariffs. We don't need to tax the people. Where was all the tariff money going then? Who was getting rich off of it? Oh, that went into this government and this payoff and this payoff and paying off your local people, your sheriff, your mayor. Hey, do this and we'll give you a little kickback money. You ever wonder why politicians get so damn rich? Tariff money. Yeah. Our tax money, they were trying to base off of what we owed in tariffs and other things and all the other things that they had was off of us and off our labor. That's what Trump is getting ready to completely destroy. Peeling back right here, hey, it's done. Matter of fact, there was something on business that dealt with statutes and codes that Trump announced this past week. Go look it up. Go down the rabbit hole. We ain't gonna do it all for you. Well, once again, you're going to have to look that up. Perhaps you're going to have to dig down the rabbit hole. All right, I've got too much to cover. It's not hard to find. Just go down it. It's not deep. You can find the where it states that. Trust me. It's all on there. Like I said, there you can find keywords. There are so many good resources out there that you can turn around and find these things. Yes, they've claimed that it's all due with these contracts. Because it's the only way the state can operate with you is by contract law. And how many times, Darren, have you had people that you've done a void ab initio and the court just laughs it out of the courtroom that these people have done? It's like it's a joke, but it's not. It's saying
that's as legit as it gets, man.
Yeah, but they're not even recognizing it.
No. Well, the first thing is that number one, it doesn't have to be adjudicated. Don't go and adjudicate it. Go in. Put it in your case file. Walk away. You have the order already. There it is. Done. You know,
it's
if you don't know how to use the weapon. It's like this. If you don't know how to use the gun, then they're gonna take it from you. You know, that's it.
Train.
Right.
This is why we tell people that we used to have gun safety classes in school, in public schools, and all of a sudden those are gone, and all of a sudden this is gone. And you have a lot of people, stuff like this, that will turn around and go, I remember where I had my gun and I had a dead deer in the back of the truck and go to school in the middle of winter and my gun was hanging, shotgun or my rifle was hanging up in the back window. You didn't have people breaking in, trying to steal this and do all this and this and that. And there was other times even when there was school threats. You know what they end up doing in the 70s? When they had bomb threats? All the students went out to their car and grabbed their rifles.
Yeah, grab their guns. Yeah, let's go. You imagine that?
Let's rock.
Imagine a school shooter, these little pussy school shooters that are coming in there now, just back in the 80s, and they tried to storm in the schools back then. Yeah. These guys would have loved it.
So you have a right. What we're talking about is that they were exercising and doing the right thing by activating the Second Amendment to protect their community from illegally or unconstitutionally violating that right of coming to take somebody's life or seize the property. They were defending their Fourth Amendment with their Second.
Why do you think all these countries
doesn't sound so bad now, does it?
Why do you think these countries won't invade the United States? Because it's not the army they got to worry about. Every household in this country has guns. There's so many guns here,
Would they estimate it, like 7.2 guns per household?
Yeah,
a lot of people's over there is just like snickering and going, you ain't got a clue. What crowd you hanging out with that only has 7?
Right.
I mean,
we're over
here. Have you seen this dude? I mean, yeah, it looks like a potato gun. He says, but you see what that thing can shoot? What he makes for that thing?
Yeah.
Oh, it ain't just that. How many rifles? How many hunting rifles? How many that? You got 4 boys in there. Everybody's got to have a rifle for what? Deer season, duck season, for
Yeah.
and carry different
Everyone.
times when you go out in the woods. You don't go without a weapon. There's number one rule you learn real quick. You going out in the middle of the woods, you go with a weapon. Why? Because there's things out there that will kill you.
Yep.
I mean, but you know, coming back to this whole thing with seizure, you know, this and that, we have a right to feel secure and to secure them from somebody coming in. So here's the thing. This is what I'm going to tell you under the Constitution. I'm going to justify this. I do not incite violence within this next statement, but I'm understanding that with the Constitution, this is the way it is understood, read, and or case law that has taken and turned around and passed enough to do this. If a caseworker enters my home with no warrant, no court order, or imminent danger, and not there, they have violated the oath. They have violated my constitutional rights. Their immunity's gone. Okay, their immunity's gone. In other words, they're no different than anybody else breaking in your house. And what are they saying? I'm here to get at your children.
Yeah. Boom.
You have a right under the Constitution. They're not here, and you're forcing your way into my house. The way the Constitution reads, you have a right to defend it with the Second Amendment.
And you cast
How
the law
you
further.
see fit. That is the law of the land. If that was to happen across the country, people were educated of that, you know how quick CPS would shut down, let alone, well, then they'll come in and take my child. Well, somehow is going to have to make a stand. But you're going to have to argue the right court. Your Honor, this is a constitutional issue. You don't have jurisdiction. Well, you're looking at a murder charge of a state employee. Your Honor, he wasn't a state employee. To calling them a state employee means that they had immunity and they were in their official capacity.
Yeah.
And if they were in their official capacity, it means they violated the Constitution, which automatically means this whole case against me under fruit from a poisonous tree is now dismissed.
That's right.
If you don't believe me, what happened? They broke into my home. They forced their way into my home, saying they had a right to come in as the state. When they come and cross the threshold, they lost their immunity under federal law. I have a right to defend my home. Therefore, well, Castle Doctrine, blah, 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 blah. Great, that's in state court. Don't give a crap. Take it to the federal court, and they're going to tell you the same thing. His immunity's gone. I got the whole thing on camera, Your Honor. I'm there. I told them to leave. They put their foot in the door, the hand in here and there. I need to come in and see the children. No, you can't, this and that. And then they coerce their way in. How did you get in? I turned my back to deal with my children. And all of a sudden, the person walks in. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, you unlocked the door. There was the problem. That's why I tell everybody, lock your screen door. Up and down with the screen. Unfortunately, you don't live in a neighborhood where if you have CPS, it's what you need to do. Because as soon as they start to tug on that handle, that's a violation. They're attempting to break your Fourth Amendment right and break and enter into your home.
Yeah.
There is federal case law on this. Already been defined. It's not even an argument. So long as you cite it. Now, will an attorney do that for you? No. This is why you have to know your rights and understand that as a citizen, someone able to vote, you should be able to defend yourself in court and now how to do it in a federal court system to go from there. I have to disregard this. If you articulate the state court, you don't have jurisdiction. It's a constitutional matter. And then I will articulate and put on the record, Your Honor, unless the court can produce a warrant, court order, or imminent danger that was there, nothing was there. Did the caseworker or anybody else break in? Did the cop turn around and do this and that? Let me tell you something, officers, anybody out there, blue line, it doesn't matter. You better learn what the Constitution is because it's going to get you killed when people get educated. We want people safe. We do not want people to have their lives extinguished. We want you to be safe, but to understand when you break that, that is the decision of the person defending the home. But I'll tell you this much, if my wife turned her back and this dude walks in and I walked around the corner and watched him come in, she knows very well. Did he have a warrant or court order? What are you doing in the house? Well, I'm from the state and I have to be here. and I'm going to come in and I'm going to protect the children and make a lunge forward, you would have been dropped. Hardcore. Soft, you would have been killed. Because you're breaking and entering and trying to get at children with no corridor or no word. I don't care who you are. Well, they're from it doesn't matter. You're telling me this person's immune to come into my house and this, let's go have that conversation with the federal court, because I guarantee you lose. And for you to say you have jurisdiction, you're going to do this and that. No, that is a justifiable shooting. It's a criminal breaking into my home. I've taught my kids the same thing. Anybody breaks into your home that ain't supposed to be there, you defend your home. And yes, I've had some of my older children defend themselves and shoot intruders, let alone intruders that weren't even supposed to be here in this country, right here in this county. That's how you train your children, how to defend themselves, both men and women. Defend yourselves. Defend your own person. Breaking into your home, that is sacred. There is so much case law. Darren, you can correct me if I'm wrong. There's tons of case law protecting Fourth Amendment.
There's tons of case law, period, man. You know, like you guys, you need to take advantage of this. You know, when you go, if you find any points that are yours that you're going to use in your case that you think that you have constitutionally equaled out to, make sure you go and look and find the case law that goes with it, because that just impacts your statement more. It gives you more power, more reputable points, and if it is in your own jurisdiction area, they have to use that as a matter of fact in law. So you know how that rule was and everything. So
it's just so much that's there that a lot of people just do not understand their rights. And this is why they get away with so much that they do, including to steal your children. Because if you knew these rights, half of you, CPS came to take and they stole my children and everything else. My first question is, do they have a warrant or court order? No, they forced their way in, and some of them have video, and I'm over here, I'm like, do you not have a weapon? Well, they're from the state. Why are you intimidated by an elected or appointed official or actor? We, the people, are the government, and that we have a constitutional right to defend our home and everything else. So what? Do what needs to get done. But you expected everybody else to do it for you, didn't you? Because you were raised that way. Government, take care of me. Government, put your hand out. Government, this and this and that. No. Stop it. Grow the hell up like everybody else. Yes, it's a struggle. But living off some of these systems, like I seen one the other day, you can't go to work. You can't this and that. They'll take away my Section 8 and my food stamps and my money and this and that if you go to work. How dare you do that? You're right. They played that system on there to cause poverty, to cause that. Guess what group runs those same cities that do that? Yeah, a lot of democratically controlled cities run into the ground. You don't believe me? Look and do the history on Detroit. You know why they took and destroyed Detroit? Over Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. These blacks have got too much money if they're supporting these people to do these movements. They took their money away. They took any way to make a dollar for the black communities. It's not a joke. It's history, folks. And you wonder why they wonder why they're so oppressed and everything. Yeah, they're oppressed, but at the same time, some of them are voting for the same damn crap that they're in, thinking, well, I'll do this. Or you get some that turns around and it ain't just one particular color. It's anybody. That I'll have 4 or 5 different baby daddies, and I'll live high off the hog, and I'll get my nails done and this and that, and I just get paid to stay home and do all this. What a disgusting way to live a life and do to those children. I'm sorry, that's selfish for any person to do, not to have both parents in their lives. Listen, yes, you guys may have not worked out husband and wife, but that is a complete difference. That's what divorce is for. And there you're done. But your children should have their own opportunity. They could be great parents and a shitty partner. Trust me. And most people, I've seen it. You guys are like, fire and gasoline. You do not belong together. But they're both individually great parents. I have seen it. But when people use children as pawns in these courtrooms, or lawyers, there's even lawyers I'm hearing about. That's right, divorce attorneys that are instructing their party, especially women. Open a CPS case and you'll get the kids, and you'll get a bigger amount of child support. Keep his kids from it. It's not always the women. Listen, get past your feelings, man. Court ain't about that. It's real simple rule when you go into, if you have divorce court. It's just this. It's this simple, and they overcomplicate everything. What you both get to keep what you had before the marriage, and any indebtedness or anything you've gained, balance the scales that you've had during the marriage gets divided in half: the debt and the profit. Other than that, go your separate ways. As far as sharing the children, no one person's going to get the children, nor should they deserve the children. And once again, they need to have the opportunity to be what it's like apart from that person that was their partner or co-creator of the child in those instances, because it could be a different scenario. And that opportunity needs to be given by the court, 50-50. Now, if somebody's a deadbeat and doesn't want to this, that, and I don't mean deadbeat because you've manipulated the situation on either side, but I mean deadbeat is I just don't want the kid. You can have the kid. I'll sign over my rights. Here's all this other stuff. And there are people like that of both sides. But you have got to stop thinking of your damn self, because if that's the way you're going into any relationship that you could possibly have children, shame on you. Because when you have children, the idea is you have picked a partner to come together and co-create and agree just by that conception thing to raise that child with both of your influence, both of you, unless one freely chooses to remove themselves. That's what the Constitution says. A parent has an inherent right to their child. First Amendment guaranteed. But we have been so disillusioned that there's something greater on the other side, or that every person, and listen, it's not me sitting here saying, Gunner, you're going to be a chauvinist pig and all this other. I'll get Sharon in here and she'll tell you straight up, she has a degree in psychology and early childhood development. She will tell you she has seen some very, very toxic, we'll say, females that turn around and say and manipulate people and do several things of their children, that it disgusts her to look at other women. As she says, it's just so thing that they would hold such emotion and everything else, rule their emotions over the best interest of the child, or even thinking about the child, because they don't. And it's so apparent. Everybody sees it. I mean, there's all sorts of things. You need to do this. You need to give them the freedom to figure it out and be a parent themselves. There's the problem. We get into too many arguments. We don't work on anything. We're too quick to call it quits. We don't want to put in the work. We don't want to put in the effort. We want life to come in easy. Well, guess what? Life sucks. It sucks for all of us. And if you think, well, if I just had a bunch of money, or if I just did this, or if I just did that, I could do this and that, it'd be so much easier, would it? Because money isn't what makes family. Oh, you could be dead broke in the world and not have two things together, like we did and we went through in this country with the Great Depression, but families still were together. Matter of fact, they drew even closer because they had to depend on each other. That's a scary thought when you have to think of it, and you need to think about that and teach your children that when you select somebody that you want to be with, think about that for a minute, that if you had to go through the worst of the worst in your life, do you really think that person has the qualities or the maturity to go through that with you? Ouch. But and at the same time, and Sharon's right, it's not a one-sided issue, but a lot of this that's thrown out, narcissists, manipulating, gaslighting, all those other things. Okay, but there's two, there's always a saying that my grandfather used to say, there's always three sides to a story. And Sharon loves it when I says this. is there's his, hers, and the truth. And that says a lot about human nature. But we need to forget each side of the coin, and we need to deal with that little sliver that's truth. Yes, they may have been toxic. Yes, it may have been this, may have been that. But at the same time, what is the absolute truth? That maybe the relationship between you two spilled over into everything else, and you need to give what life is like beyond that. And let me tell you something, there are people that can move on because they will move on. And there's others that will hold on. Listen, I have been divorced for quite a while, and I'm going to share a little bit of this and that, but there was somebody that had given some information that still to this day, with everything that I went through in my first marriage, that my name is still in somebody else's mouth, and not just me, but my wife, of how we live rent free in somebody's head, and they just can't. To me, I could care less what that other person does or anything else like that. I just moved on. I'm dealing with the own stuff in my lives and this and that. But for that to still be there just tells you to the type of person somebody is, that they have nothing better to do um, than to focus on that particular thing where they failed. And that's okay if that they want to live that way, and spend the rest of their life with all the regrets and everything else and not heal. It was actually one of the qualities that that person actually had, that was given several opportunities to heal from a lot of things in their past, but just couldn't, and kept letting the same people back in to hurt not only her, but also myself, and also my children. And my children will tell you that themselves, of their own free will, and they are all fully capable. They've not manipulated. They're on their own. Um, Even to where some of them are just like, they're seeing a lot of what the real side is and what they're dealing with, the exactly what I saw. And I sit back and I listen to them. Well, I went through this, I went through that, and just like, yeah, I've tried to, I haven't really told you, but I'll try and tell you a little bit. But at the same time, you have to experience and learn for yourself. Well, now you're seeing exactly what I saw. And yeah, they're those type of people that you have to make a choice whether or not you want those people in your life, uh, or not. Punisher's good, yes. He has narcolepsy, so every once in a while he gets real tired, he'll fade out. But that's okay. He can take a nap. He'll wake up here in a minute, no big deal. But he doesn't realize he's even taking a nap because he can hear everything I'm saying, and it does retain. Very interesting. But yes, he's good, Rochelle. Thank you for the love on that. Um, and also the other thing, and I'm glad Sharon pointed that out too. And yes, we run a little bit longer. I think we're almost going to a 2-hour show because it almost too much to come in. So guys, just keep that in mind. Um, but we're going to go over constitutional rights, but we're going to deal with the psychological aspects a little bit too. And I think we're going to have Sharon come on a little bit too as we go over these on the psychological aspects of your constitutional rights, and what happens when somebody crosses those boundaries beyond the red flags and you cross them, how much psychological damage it does to you when your constitutional rights are actually violated. I think we'll discuss that and bring that little aspect on too. But narcissism, she puts in there, it's also a lack of communication. One thing that Sharon and I do very, 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 very well, and it's so nice to have, is we communicate very well. And when we don't understand, we ask questions. Hey, can you clarify that? Hey, I don't really understand. Can you explain a little more? Or I'll give a look up to her or something like, what did you mean by that? Or she could have days she struggles. We call them brain farts, where she get a little cloudy or this and that. And sometimes just mind's overwhelmed. It happens. But I know what she means and where she's going. And a lot of that goes with trauma and some of the other things too, to where I get to understand her. She'll speak a half sentence and I'll go like, okay, give me the rest of it because I have no idea where you're going with this. And talking this out. And that's one of the things that we weren't taught. We weren't taught a lot by our parents, is how to properly communicate. It was this and that. And most of them grunted or this or that, instead of just saying, can you please explain a little bit more, or this or that? Because, we always told the guys out in the field and everything else, the only dumb question you could ever ask is the question you don't ask. because I would much rather have more information to where you clearly understand my intent, my purpose, and everything else of where we're going, and have that open debate or discussion to make sure that it's clear, what we're doing. Because one, you want to make sure that somebody doesn't get hurt, and you can apply that same thing to your relationship, no matter what you have. I'm saying, hey, listen, I want you to communicate, but I'm not reading your mind, and don't assume things, because most time with guys, it's just simple. And my wife kind of laughs at me and stuff like this, because I'll be on the phone with her and I'll be watching TV or a movie or something, or scrolling through something, and I'll sit there and go, "Damn, that looks sexy as hell." And she goes, "Okay, what are you looking at? You're either looking at a weapon, or you're looking at a car." And because I'm a gearhead too. I grew up with a lot of the hot rod muscle cars and everything else growing up. And some of the body lines and everything else, when you see something that somebody that's put in some of the work and some of the other things, notice I said that. I appreciate when somebody has uh, done the work to maintain, restore, or bring back the original beauty of what the original designer intended, or even modernize it with newer things such as a new color or paint job or something like that, to look at it and go, wow, that I really appreciate that, and that looks so good. And just take time to notice it and say, you know what, that caught my eye. Why? Because the work's been put in, and you can see the detail. Or you really see a weapon perform, like, hey, we're getting ready to shoot this big old 30 millimeter, this and that, and it's like a bunker, what they call a bunker buster. And the big old thing with this, suppressor on the end, the thing's huge, and you watch it just explode into something. It's like, okay, that's cool. And these are guys that are just playing with different, experiment with different calibers of weapons. And I get into some. I like to keep up with a lot of what they call military science, as well as several other things and innovations in technology and weaponry, especially a lot of R&D. It's just, I find it fascinating. Um, but those are the type of things that, once again, we communicate to where she knows that about me, where it's just like, oh, this or oh, that. Um, so there's a lot of things out there, um, that we've got to understand. But and that's where communication comes in, and where we got to identify red flags and this and that, and understand, just because you're having a bad day, don't make it everybody else's problem. Leave it at the door the best you can. And if that means you got to give yourself or your partner a half hour, 15 minutes, or this or that to unwind, that's fine. But at the same time, with some of the other stuff, you're working out in this heat and everything else, and you've got dehydration and this and that, and somebody's in the elements, depends on their type of job, give them a little bit more slack, because at the same time, it's rough. It's rough working in the heat and everything else, and you can have heat exhaustion and this and that. And there's other things to where I've seen people go, oh no, you're not going to come home and rest for 15 minutes or a half hour or this and that. We've got work to do and this and this and that. No, give me some minute. If I got to stay up a little bit later, okay, well, I'll get to, but at the same time, I got to go to work tomorrow, and it's very physically demanding. That's where compassion comes in. And at the same time, there's a lot of things that she goes through that, the kids are being this and this, that. Well, when I was there and everything else, it was, no, you're going to walk the line. You're going to leave mama the hell alone. You're going to go find something else to do. And you're not going to bug the hell out of her, because here's the thing. I'm home now. She's going to get a break. And if she has to, even to take a shower or anything else, and that was one thing my daughter posted something, I think, on Facebook about having a partner or stuff enough to where she could take a shower. And that was something I thought, you mean not everybody does that? I mean, that's just kind of weird, because, and let alone, even when we were, younger, there's sometimes the baby was bad and the baby needed a shower, especially when the babies did puke ups or, shit ups, upside the back, everything else. Here, take the baby. The baby just did that. We'll get the diaper off, throw it in the shower. Let's hose it off, and then turn around and, kind of wash the baby, as this and that, and then hand it back to mom as she dried the baby off and gave her a little bit of a break or something. I mean, that to me was normal. Um, but these are the things that we're talking about. We're really not off the trail, because all of this is connected with things that are God given or rights, to where that's the kind of peace and freedom that we're talking about, we want to cherish and what we're protecting with these constitutional rights. Didn't think about that, did you? Your peace, your home, all those things you enjoy, watching your children grow and this and that. That's under that Fourth Amendment, that's protected, not to violate that. So when CPS comes in your home, all those good memories and all those good things and all those good everything you've tried to do to protect your family from the outside world, that this is your corner of the world, with one report or any other bullshit, that they're going to break into your home like they did mine. And they're going to destroy and feel safe in your own home. And all those good memories now are overcast or buried because somebody's violated that. And what have you done to take and protect it? Changes a lot of things. But guys, we've gone through the first 4 amendments. I believe I'm going to get Sharon. I'm going to talk to her, make sure everything's cool. We're going to get on the psychological aspect, and hopefully Darren can join us next week to come through theirs. And we can get a little bit of aspect, more definitions of the legal aspect, some of the real things. But let's talk about the psychological aspect, and we'll do a quick overview of stuff with Sharon next week. And hopefully she can join us for the entire time, because you guys are wanting so much information as the reckoning is growing. The We the People's case to abolish CPS is moving forward. We're gaining so much ground on these things. We're educating so many different people. But I think going through back to basics of back to your constitutional rights, where a lot of people say, well, I don't know what my constitutional rights, what were violated when CPS had done this and that. That's all connected with what we're going through, so you understand what they are and how they relate in the real world. Because you have so many people, well, they came to my hospital room, they came to my motel and did it in one story. Hey, they're crossing state lines to do this stuff. These are all illegal things. And unless you make a stand, they're going to keep doing it, is the point, until they're stopped one way or another. And I'm telling you, the Constitution tells you, that's right, get out of the state courts and go to the federal court. You have a right to bypass. Why? Because what's it say on there? What's it say? Right there in the Constitution. You don't have jurisdiction. Article 3, Section 2, Clause 2. Me versus the state. That's what it says on there. Has to go there. There's a federal question here. They broke the law. I defended my home. Now I'm facing these charges. Show me the proof. The burden then becomes upon the state. Then it's the way it's supposed to be. Now the state has to defend before the federal court, and going, federal court saying, show it to me. Man was in the house, and I've got a video of it on top of it. He broke into the house. Where's his warrant court order? It doesn't matter if he works for the state or anything else. If it's imminent danger for a social worker, they're supposed to back out and call law enforcement. Was there a call to law enforcement? Did he back off? No. He or she back off? No. They kept pressing in. Violation of constitutional rights. They started having that thing, and they're going to go through. And yes, you're going to have corrupt states that are going to do it. You got to know where to fight and go through this stuff. And then you're going to trust the lawyers. Well, I got in trouble for doing this and that. Fight in the right damn court. Once again, the decision, I'm not telling you to do it. I'm telling you that's your decision. And this is what the Constitution says. And the constitutional law says, if somebody comes in, doesn't have those things, you have a right to defend your home. That's called tyranny. They're breaking a constitutional right and threatening your life and security, and all these things guaranteed under the Fourth Amendment. Changes things, doesn't it? But they don't want you to know that. That's why a lot of states have suppressed Second Amendment rights. Scary, isn't it? Guys, thanks for being with us. You know, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys. We're here. We've got the letter done. We're going to go over this next week, and this is going to be here. We're going to go through the Constitution amendments, what they mean every week, to get you an understanding of where you stand. And you're going to have to understand this anyway, because we're going there. There ain't going to be all this stuff. It's going to be gone. And you're going to have to know act accordingly and what your rights are. This is stuff you should have learned and been brought up to learn. But once again, common sense isn't that common anymore. And all your state courts, statutes and codes. You know, statutes and codes, they don't have They don't deal with that type of law. That's all they can rule on is the state. The Constitution's common law. Big difference, isn't it? Yeah, now we're getting educated. Now we're bringing it to it. Now they've locked down the borders. Guess what? Lock down the borders. We're all locked in here together. And guess what? Now they're going to clean house. You thought we were playing. CPS thinks it's a joke. These judges, these magistrates, all these, these sheriffs that have abandoned their oath and everything else and not defended us, that's a violation of their oath. We're bringing the evidence. What are you going to do? Where are you going to run? Because you can't flee the country now. You're on lockdown. That means Coast Guard is going to be there at the mile marker. You can go out fishing and do all these other things. You can't go past those mile markers. You leave, can't come back. You better consider it an enemy attack. We are securing our borders because we are going to war with the thing that's within us. Guys, education is definitely your biggest thing, to know your rights, know what exactly has been happening, and be able to defend those things. And guys, don't forget to check out tomorrow night. That's right, you've got the Tiff and Punisher show is on tomorrow about 7:30, 7:45 on the CPS Breaking News Network. And the Beauty and Ashes on YouTube. Beauty and Ashes goes on at 9 o'clock tomorrow, Eastern Standard Time. It's the psychological and mental part of everything that's going on how to heal and how to go on. Guys, thanks again. We'll see you again next week. And don't forget, if you missed anything, check out our channel. You can watch the show again. Have a great evening. We'll see you next week.